Hi, Prerna. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Morning. Yes, I can.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. How about you?
I'm doing great. So, shall we start with our interview process?
Yes, please.
Yeah, good. Prerna, quickly, can you introduce about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Prerna, and I have 3 years of experience as a Java developer using Java, J2E, and Spring and Spring Boot. Um, I also have experience with databases like Oracle and MySQL. And I have hands-on experience in developing backend applications and some part of front-end applications also using Angular. Um, that's it for now.
Great. Good. We currently are working for which project?
I'm working for a retail store wherein I have a task of building web pages for them. So it's kind of like an inventory application where they get a lot of stock of their products. So I would have to design the databases and the tables that are required to implement this inventory application. So it would have web pages like on the home page, it had a small segment where it would have something called Deal of the Day. So it was built using Ajax call. So just that portion of the web page would refresh on its own depending on what deal is going on and how many hours the deal would go on and stuff like that. And the backend, like an admin module where these inventory is maintained, like the stock that they have and how much got sold and the reports and stuff like that. So this whole thing was built using Spring Boot with Data JPA and MySQL.
Great. Good. So, what are your day-to-day activities in this project?
So daily we would have a scrum call with our business analyst team. They are the ones who would gather the requirements that are needed for the project. And they would have a discussion with us, the web development team. They would explain what are all the requirements for one particular module to be developed. Say one web page, they would give us the requirements, what are needed for that web page, how should it look like, and how the layout should be. And we as developers pitch in and design as to what are the tables that are needed. Would the existing tables serve the purpose, or does it need any more, and how the layout should go, or like normalization process in designing the tables, and the backend modules, what are all needed, or say the methods that are needed to process this. Does the existing class would serve this purpose, or do I have to create a new one? So these kind of analysis and design and the development comes in later. And after the development, I would do the testing as well, my unit testing, and push it to the repository. So this would be pretty much um, daily activities that goes on.
Good. Right. How can you rate yourself in core Java out of 5?
I would say I am around 4. I may not be expert at knowing every nook and corner, but I think I am good at the pretty essential stuff that is needed.
Good. Good. So, can you tell me what is lambda expression and why we need that?
Okay, lambda expression was introduced in Java 8 to bring in the functional programming concepts. As you know, Java is an object-oriented program. So even for one single method, you would have to declare a class and write a method and write the function or the logic for the method has to be mentioned. Whereas with functional programming, with lambda expression, the whole thing came into one single line. You can also say that it is an anonymous method that you can write, wherein you do not have to mention any name for the method. You do not have to mention any access modifiers, and also the return type. So it takes away the burden of creating any such verbose that is needed to write a method, and it would bring it into a cut short method. Like say, for example, if I have a method to add two numbers, so I can just say to pass two parameters and get the return, and I don't even have to mention curly braces to if it is a single line, and I don't have to mention return any such stuff. It eases the programming.
Yeah. Can you share your screen and can you write a Lambda expression for me?
Sure. 1 second.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Say, as in my example, I said adding two numbers. So what I can do is, if I were to write a method, I would pass two parameters. So I would say like A, comma, B. And this is the Lambda, I don't know how to say this, but this is the signal that you need to mention, saying that these are the parameters that are going into the method, and I would add them and return it. So you don't have to mention any return as well, because this is just one single line, and it would just process and send it back. I don't even have to mention the data types. Reason being, it would infer based on the parameters that are going in.
Great. How to call this Lambda?
I would need a functional interface to do so. Functional interfaces were introduced in Java 8. It is an interface which has only single abstract method. So using that, I can invoke a Lambda expression. Say, for example, in this purpose, I would call a functional interface like a function.
Okay. Yeah, write the functional interface and call that Lambda.
Yeah. Function, and I would pass, sorry, I'm passing two parameters. So I would say integer, and the return also will be an integer, where I would capture it and say, so I would invoke this, say apply, and pass. So that would be my code wherein I'm passing two integer values and getting a return of integer.
Great. Good. Good. What is the difference between function and predicate?
Okay, predicate is used to, it's basically a interface that returns, or the method that the predicate has returns a Boolean value. So it has a method called test. So if you were to do any logical expression, you can do that and get a Boolean return. Say it will return either true or false based on the condition that you mentioned.
Good. Good. What is the difference between string buffer and string builder?
Okay, string buffer and string builder came into picture after the string classes, because string is immutable. So they wanted to introduce mutable classes. So string builder and string buffer were built on those terms. And the main difference between string builder and string buffer is builder is not synchronized, which means it is not thread safe, whereas string buffer is thread safe.
What is the meaning of thread safe?
Which means the threads don't have to wait to access that particular variable. So when you say thread safe, which means only one single thread can access that variable or a block of code, whereas with non-thread safe is like multiple threads can access it at single time.
Good. How many ways we can create thread in Java?
What do you mean? Like,
What are the possible ways to create a thread in Java? I want to create a thread. How many options we have in the Java?
okay, you can either extend the thread class. I mean, like your class can extend the thread class, or you can implement runnable interface. And later on, you also have a possibility to do that with callable interface as well. With that, you can create a thread pool and pass your process to execute by that thread pool.
What is the difference between runnable and callable?
Okay, runnable is an interface. Once you implement, you would have to create multiple threads or multiple thread objects to run particular thread. Whereas with callable, you can use the executor services to create a thread pool and execute multiple processes with the given set of threads within that pool. And runnable, whereas implements the, like it has a method called run, which doesn't return any, it doesn't have any return type, whereas callable call method has a return type. It returns a future object. These are the differences I clearly remember.
What is the meaning of future object? What does it do?
Good question.
You told that callable will return the future object, right? So
Yes,
what is that
yes.
future
I'm
object?
just
What it does? What does
I'm
it?
just recollecting. Maybe the it returns the what do you say, like the success process of that thread or not?
Right, right. So anything that whatever the object that you want to return after thread logic is executed can be called as a future object. Good.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Right. So what is thread local?
Thread local.
Right.
I'm not sure. Sorry,
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
Okay, good. So fine, no problem. Now, so you know that in the Java 8, several changes happened, right? What are the new features that introduced in the Java 8?
So the Lambda expressions, like we discussed, was introduced, and there were functional interfaces. The concept of functional interfaces even existed before, but they came up with an annotation called functional interface to make sure that such interface would have only one single abstract method. And default and static methods were introduced in Java 8, and optional was introduced, and date API changes happened. These are some of the things that I can roughly remember.
So earlier we can write only abstract methods in the interface. Now we can write default and static methods also in the interface from Java 8, right?
Yes.
What is the main reason behind that? Why they introduced default methods and static methods in the interfaces?
So the default method, both static methods were introduced to provide a backward compatibility. Say, for example, you have an interface and you have multiple classes that implement the interface. If you add one more method, then it would break all these implementation classes. So for such scenarios, to avoid such scenarios, they added a default method which gives a bare minimum implementation to that method. So any classes in future, if they want to implement that method, they can go ahead and override it.
Can you give any example method which is available as default in the Java?
The iterable, like for each method in iterable was introduced as a default method.
Perfect. Did you use Stream API in your project?
Yes, I did.
What is the main purpose of Stream API?
So Stream API would help you to, use your collections as a source and write your functional methods on top of it. You can basically process these collection data using streams.
Right. Can you write a program on the stream API? Assume that you have list of employee objects. I want to get the employees who are working in sales department and their salary above 50,000.
Okay.
Are you clear with my question? Should I repeat?
Yes. So I have to create first a class for employee.
You assume that you have list of employees. You don't need to write each and everything. Just main
Okay.
code logic I'm expecting from you. Assume that
Okay.
list of employee objects you are having already. From the list of
Okay.
employees, you need to give me the employees who are working in the sales department and having salary above 50,000 rupees. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Of employees that are having. Yes.
What is it? What is the written? What it is going to return?
Oh yeah. It would return list of employees. Yes.
Okay. Can you explain that code?
So what I'm doing is I'm using a filter method which accepts a predicate. So I'm passing my condition to the filter method. So it's gonna filter from the employee list whoever matches this condition, and I am trying to collect that and present it in a list form. So it would return me a list of employees which match this condition into this list.
Right. So can you write one more logic? Can you print the employee who is having highest salary?
Okay.
Now write another stream.
Yeah. So optional. It said maximum salary, right?
Yeah. So you have employees list. In that employees list, I want to retrieve the employee who is having highest salary.
Yeah.
Good. What is optional here?
So optional would return me if it matches and it returns me one single object. Otherwise, if it doesn't match, then it will return a null basically. So what I would do here is if employee is present. So this would avoid any null pointer exception when I raise any method call on this object, then it would not throw me a null pointer exception. To avoid such scenarios, they introduce the optional here.
Good. Fine. Yeah, you can remove this. Next. Yeah, you can clear your screen.
Yeah.
Write a Java program to reverse a string without using any predefined methods.
Okay. So say for example, I have a string. Something like this.
Right.
And I would use a string builder here. So this would reverse the string for me because I'm starting at the end of the string and retrieving single character at a time and appending to the string builder, and I'm printing it here.
Are you sure it is going to reverse the string?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, this should.
Right. Can you tell me which collections you have used in your project?
Mostly we used array list, map, and some places a set as well.
Right. So could you please tell me in which scenario you used map in your project and which map you have used?
I used a hash map. So in a scenario where I had to collect the ID and the relevant, say for example, if I were to load on the front end the countries list or cities list, so in such scenario, I populated the map with the ID and its relevant name and sent that through the REST API.
Got it. How hash map works internally?
So hash map uses a hash table as the data structure. So it also like the keys are stored as a hash set. I can say like it has bucket theory for that also. So the hash code is generated, and based on that, index is used, and it would store the value of the key in those buckets. Relevant index number is taken. So that's how the keys are stored, and their relevant values are also stored. As we know, like a hash map uses key and values. So in that bucket, it would go and store the key and its value. So
What is
basically
the
a hash code and its index number is generated.
Got it. What is the default value of hash map?
You mean the capacity?
Right.
16.
Its load factor?
0.75.
What is the meaning of that load factor?
Which means, say, when it is storing the values, if the first initial capacity reaches to its 75%, of occupancy, then it will generate one more with higher capacity and store all these values into that. So the limit where it reaches to the 75%. So that would be the load factor.
Okay. How hash map and tree map are different?
So hash map doesn't maintain any order, whereas tree map would order it in the natural sorted order. So if you want some sorting process or in an order that you want the hash map to give you the data, then you would go with a tree map. The internal data structure is binary tree.
Okay. Suppose I'm storing in the tree map. So assume that tree map dot put 1 comma some value in some integer number, and the second value I'm storing key as a string, value as a string. That means one value I'm giving as integer, second value I'm giving as a string. Then how it will sort that?
No, keys, tree map doesn't allow, I mean, like for the keys, you have to use, no, a homogeneous data is only allowed in tree map. It doesn't allow heterogeneous data, which means if you start the tree map with integers, then it has to be integers only. Otherwise, it'll throw a class cast exception.
But collections meant for storing homogeneous data and heterogeneous also, right?
Yeah, but tree map is exception. It doesn't allow heterogeneous data. As
Are
far
you
as
sure?
I remember. No, the keys are homogeneous, whereas the values can be heterogeneous. I'm getting confused between tree set and tree map. Yeah, tree set doesn't allow the values to be heterogeneous, whereas tree map does allow values, but not the keys. The keys should be homogeneous.
Okay. What is the difference between hash map and concurrent hash map?
Okay, hash map, with working with hash map, when you are iterating through um, the hash map, while retrieving the values, if you try to add one into it, then it would throw an exception. Whereas with concurrent hash map, it doesn't throw an exception where it would let the process go without having any hurdles. It is a thread safe also. Concurrent hash map is thread safe also, and it would allow you to modify while you are iterating through the map.
Okay. What is fail safe collection and fail fast collection?
So fail fast is not thread safe, and it would throw an exception immediately when you try to do something like this. As I explained earlier, fail safe is where it would not throw an exception, and it is thread safe as well.
Can you give any examples?
Like I said, fail fast is hash map, and fail safe is concurrent hash map.
Apart from these two?
With array list also, we have one called copy on write array list, and whereas array list is a fail fast one.
Good, good. What is properties class in Java?
Okay, properties class is where you do not want to write any hard-coded values within your program, because if you were to change something, then you would have to recompile and rebuild the whole program. So you would put them separately in a static file and read from those using get property and set property. So the properties class has these two methods. Using that, you can set and get the values from the properties file.
Okay. So are you using properties files in your project?
Yes, I mean, like the application.properties, if you see, that is kind of a properties file. Other than that, not anything specifically, but some we have used for emails, I would write a static file separately and read from that file, but not necessarily a property class.
Okay. Fine. Good. What are the new changes that happened to collections framework in the Java 1.8 version? Any changes happened to the collections in Java 8?
I don't know necessarily for the collections, but streams was introduced to work with collections. Other than that, I'm just thinking what else might have happened. I know optional was introduced. What else? A functional interface was introduced to work with Lambda expressions. I don't know. I can't recollect any.
Okay. Fine. I'm going to show you one program. Can you guess the output for that?
Yes.
Yeah. This is the program.
Demo.
So here I'm taking a class and I'm having a
Yes.
method called the M1 method. For that M1
Yes.
method, I'm taking integer as a parameter. Then I'm modifying
Okay.
the value which I have received. Here, this is
Correct.
my main method. I declared one variable, right? So first I'm
Yes.
printing that variable value. Assume that this is first print. And
Yes.
after that, I'm calling M1. I'm passing that I value. That I value is getting modified here. Again, after that, I'm printing that I value. So here in the print 1, what will be the I value? In the print 2, what will be the I value?
The print 1 will be 10, and the next one will also be 10, because Java is by value. It doesn't send the reference. So the I that you have within the M1 method is not being returned. So my answer would be 10 in both the scenarios.
What this concept is called as?
I'm like a pass by value.
Correct. What is the meaning of pass by reference? Does Java support for pass by reference?
Not directly, but if you work with objects, then obviously the object holds the reference to the location where it has its properties, right? So that way, when you pass an object from one method to another method, you can say that it is passed by reference, but actually it is still a pass by value only.
Good, great. Fine. So coming to exceptions, right? Oh, what are the common exceptions that you will face in your coding?
Say, for example, if I am trying to retrieve a record of an employee or something like that, and if the ID doesn't exist, then I might get an empty record. Or if the correct value is not passed, then also I might come across an exception. So such scenarios we handle by handling the exceptions.
How you are handling exceptions in your project?
So we would write our own custom exceptions by extending either from exception class or what's the other one? Runtime exception. So I would call the super constructors by passing my own custom exception message.
Okay, fine. So what is the difference between throw and throws?
Okay, throw is, say for example, you are trying to access a method that has a possibility of getting an exception, so that you either have to write within a try-catch block, or you can throw to the next higher level, saying that you have to handle this exception. So I would write that throw exception at the method level. Whereas throws is like you are potentially invoking an exception, saying that if so and so happens, then throw or raise an exception, basically.
Mhm. Okay, fine. Can you write a program which will give the deadlock?
I don't, I'm like, I can just write the methods, right?
Yep, right.
Okay, say for
You know
example,
what
I
is
have,
deadlock, right?
yeah, when one service is waiting for, or one thread is waiting for another thread to release, and they both mutually are waiting for the other thread to release a service. So in such scenario, you will encounter a deadlock which means it will go nowhere or the program execution will not proceed further.
Right,
So each thread will wait for it for one or the other services to release.
right.
Say I have a
Yeah, you
method
can take simple
M1,
methods, M1, M2, yeah.
yeah, and I have a synchronized synchronized block, say for example, and say I have one block like this, and I have another one. And if I try to write a code that is with a wait method, and here I'm waiting for the M1 is waiting for the M2 to release, and M2 is waiting for the M1 to release. And such scenario, you will get into a deadlock situation. I can't think of a really program perspective, but that's the whole concept of it.
Okay, okay. What is race condition?
RACE, race
Yeah,
condition.
right.
I haven't heard of it. Sorry, maybe I did not
Okay.
come across that.
Okay, no problem. Can you explain solid OOPS principles?
Okay, SOLID is an acronym for 5 principles, which is S stands for SRP, which is a single responsibility principle. What it says is that a class has to handle only one type of functionality. You cannot combine 2 or 3 functionalities into one single class. Say, for example, to set a database connection and to write into a file or printing something. All these functionalities you don't write into one single file, but separate them into separate functionalities. So that is SRP. And O is open and closed, which means that your class should be open to extending and close to any kind of modification, which means you should be able to extend from that class and write your own child class, whereas you don't have to go tamper with the parent class and you have to make any changes. That is O. And L is list curves. Let me think. One is inheritance, and this one is also, it says that you have to extend your class. Your child classes can extend from the parent, but it should not blow up the application itself. Say, for example, if you're extending from, I can give you a scenario where you have a class vehicle and it has a method and properties, say to fill the fuel and open the doors. Now, my child class, if I have one as car and another one as bike, the method that open the doors is not relevant to the bike class. So keep them segregated. You know what I mean? So that's how the list goes. The L principle stands for. And I is segregate the interfaces, and D stands for Dependency inversion, if I remember correctly, principle, which means you have a hazard relation with the child class or another class, then you would create that first and then get to the parent. But these are necessarily 5 principles that stands for solid.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thank you, Prerna. I'm done from my side. Do you have any questions for me?
No, I'm good. I'm like there are a few questions that I have to understand. Some of them that I missed. But
Okay.
other than that, I do not have any questions. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
It was nice talking to you.
Thank you. Nice talking to you. HR will get back to you, Prerna. Thank you.